You were talking offensive coordinator a few moments ago. Obviously, your brother, Ryan, is offensive coordinator up there, quarterback's coach. What's that relationship with? Because obviously, there's a lot of play calling that comes through you. What's that relationship like on developing a game plan and on game day, deciding what gets called?
Well, I think that me and my brother, and really a lot of guys on our staff have been together for a long time. So we understand, what our general philosophy is and what we're trying to get accomplished and how we can try to win football games and what's going to help us. And we work all hard together. And I think they know that it's going to start with me, but I want everyone's opinion. And each and every year, their opinions get stronger and they feel more comfortable about what we're trying to accomplish. I think you got to understand the landscape of the teams you're playing, which that is going to be something we got to catch up on, is making sure that we understand the opponents we're going to play and what it's going to take to win. And then you got to understand your team. Who are your better players? How do you get them the ball? How do you help them succeed? So it's just a lot of work, but I think if you have really good people that, especially that know each other, familiar with each other, the transition is easier, and you can get to the end product of winning football games much better.
You mentioned yesterday that you're a risk taker at times. We've seen it in some big games. How do you make that decision? Okay, this is the opportunity. I don't know if you want to give that much away, but how do you know when it's the opportunity to take those risks?
Well, it's not a perfect science.
Yeah.
You try to be aggressive. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And you got to be able to handle when it doesn't work. And that's just the balance you have to take. And, I've always tried to err on the side of not being conservative and being aggressive. And, your players want to know that you're willing to go for the win. They want to know that sometimes when teams think you're going to run out the clock, no, you're going to get the first down and in the game, and you may do it throwing the ball instead of running the ball when everyone thinks you're going to run it. So you got to be able to do the unexpected in college football, in my opinion, a little bit, because teams are smart and they prepare, and if you do everything you showed on film, you better be much better than they are, and they're going to stop it. So there just has to be that enough creativity to help your team gain an edge, because things are so competitive now that, as a coach, you've got to give that wrinkles here and there so that will allow your players to play freer, to play more aggressive. But they have to know the mentality on any side of the ball is that we're going to go down swinging. We're not going to step up to the plate and strike out by looking. We will at least swing 3 times. And if we get a hit or a home run or a run, it's great. You strike out, then you move on to the next at bat.
Has there been an opportunity or an example or situation where you're coming up with one of these unique risk-taking plays and showing it to your staff? Has there ever been an opportunity or chance that one of your staff members is like, you want to do what? What are we going to do here?
Well, that goes back to the Western Kentucky days. To be honest with you, I stole a play off the Twitter on YouTube of a high school team running a double reverse throwback pass that I never seen anybody do, and we put it in at Western, and the coaches were like, "Oh, so you actually want to run this?" I said, "Yeah, I want to run it." And we practiced maybe once or twice, and the first time we called it, it's a 45-yard touchdown. And that's normally how these things work. If it's something that anyone hasn't seen and hasn't prepared for, it's got a good chance. Sometimes I tell our coaches, even with our trick plays, if you practice them too much, you end up not liking them. There's something that happens that you didn't think that would, and it causes you to lose confidence. Normally, you just practice it maybe once or twice. You put it in the bank. You maybe bring it up, sporadically throughout the season, once or twice again, and run it that week, and you call it and you roll with it. And those are normally the best ones. That's one we hit against Michigan State for a touchdown when we pulled off that upset. Other teams now are running the play quite a bit, but it's just, from that to the fake flea flicker to whatever you can think of, we just try to have that in. And our players sometimes come up with plays, and we look at it, and if we think it's going to work, we'll put it in practice. And whether I call it or not, we'll see, but we do have fun with it.
Defensively, everybody, when they think of Jeff Brown, they're thinking about what you can do on offense. How involved are you in the defensive scheming and how things are going to be called on game day?
Well, 2 years ago, I kind of changed my complete thinking and said, you know what, I'm the head coach. It's my responsibility to help us win. I'm going to be more involved with the defense. And from there, it became, in general, we're going to run the defense I want, and we're going to call it what I want. Now, when we hire coaches, that's explained to them. But at the same time, I want them to take it and run with it. We're going to run with it and use your creativity, adjust along the way. I'll be there with you as much as I can. I'll study it as well. But in the end, I want it to take with it the aggressive approach of attacking, of getting after the quarterback, making sure he feels the heat and pressure, being aggressive in the secondary, jumping passes, trying to get interception, trying to make plays, and not being conservative. So that just needs to be the aggressive approach we take. It can be a lot of different ways that we do that, but I just want to make sure that's the mentality our defensive play caller is going to have. That's the mentality our defensive coaches are going to have. That's the mentality our team is going to have, that you can't be willing to be afraid to make a play and scared to get beat deep. I want you to go for the interception. I want you to go for the tackle. I want you to be aggressive in our approach. I just think the approach, the philosophy is important, and then you build it from there.
Everywhere you've been, whether it's Western or Purdue as a head coach, you face some challenges. Obviously, Western, still making that transition, and obviously you won Conference USA championships for the first time down there. What you've done at Purdue, just recently getting the Big Ten championship. What's the big challenge facing you here at Louisville?
Well, I think that winning today in college football is always a challenge, and it's going to take everything to get it done. And the difference between winning and losing is so small that you've got to just find that edge. And getting to know our football team, what they do well, what we may need to help and improve, where we need to get stronger at, is always something that just takes a little time. And then as you get to that point, you've got to work extremely hard, and you've got to put the best plan together. You've got to study the teams we're going to play, which will be new to me, so that's going to take work and time. But I just think there's not a secret formula other than, are you going to be willing to put that work in? Are you going to be willing to adjust along the way? Are you going to be willing to point the finger at yourself when things are going to go well? Are you going to be willing to handle the criticism when you take a loss that maybe you shouldn't have lost? And those things are going to happen. But you have to be able to pick the pieces back up. And as I've always told the football team I coached, sometimes out of a loss you can get more and find a way to win the next game. There's some weeks if you win the game and you feel too good about yourself, you're not going to win the next game. So there has to be a constant, daily, weekly hunger that is in the inside of your body that understands that that's the process it's going to take. You've got to get better every week. You've got to be willing to make corrections every week, win or loss. And you've got to be willing to have that same hunger and desire to do that little bit more that each player and each coach has to do on their team, so that when you take the field Saturday morning, you can look in the mirror individually and say, I've prepared and done everything I can to get to this point. Now let's just go cut it loose and play football.
Last question for you. College football is always evolving. It's going to be going to a 12-team playoff. Thoughts on what that does for the game?
Well, I think in general it's exciting for everybody, players, coaches, fans, that there's an opportunity for more teams to win the whole thing. And there's an opportunity for competition to exist and possible upsets to happen through a playoff that is going to be exciting to watch. And then, of course, it probably opens more doors to everyone else to think that now they have a chance, truly a chance, to get to that playoff. So that's going to be an exciting time. Our players and team need to understand that everything's on the table. So conference championships are great, but there are other ways to get there as well. And if you have a slip up during the season, you can't just shut it down and realize that we're out of it. No, you're always going to have a chance to be in it, because now with the ability to have 12 teams, you've got to try to work your way into that top 12.